This video is brought to you by the Mark Poole Playmat collection, available now on Kickstarter. More on that in a moment. It was banned and restricted announcement day yesterday, and it was a biggie in a way. The volume of things banned and unbanned was rather small, but I think there's actually a hell of a lot of nuance around the conversation they put out there in the article and the things they didn't touch. Ristic Study dodged the bullet, but we got 2 things come off the ban list. We also saw price spikes on some cards that people thought were going to come off, so some speculators got burnt, which was a good thing. All that and more in today's video. But first of all, you know who Mark Poole is. He's done some incredible artwork for Magic over the years, from Birds of Paradise to Ancestral Recall, right through to one of my favourite interpretations of the original Sol Ring art with the burning planetarium. And this Kickstarter, this project here, shows his growth as an artist, his journey over 30 years with Wizards of the Coast in the game. And the playmats available have iconic stuff from both his time in Alpha and Beta, right through to Double Masters with things like the Exploration. And there's more and more things being added with stretch goals too, including this incredible sort of saga artwork for the Brothers War as a full-length table mat. All the pieces involve the original art by Mark being extended to be on the playmats. These mats have already proved incredibly popular because Mark is one of the most iconic artists in all of Magic. His work absolutely built the game as part of the texture of the legacy of the game. It's already reached £108,000 worth of its original intended 10k goal. You should get on board to help hit those stretch goals and see more artwork unlocked. The link is in the description below, and sadly at time of recording, my mats that I wanted to show off so you can see how cool they look in person haven't arrived, but check out my socials and a video later next week where I'll show them off too. I can't decide on my favourite. The counter spell where the spell is absolutely sagging has always been a classic, but I do also think that exploration that Mark did with the Lotus Gate is just phenomenal. So if you want to support Mark and this channel as well, link in the description below to pick up your playmats through the Kickstarter. Let's quickly touch upon the non-commander bans real quick, because I think there's an important thing here as well. Standard, Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, Pauper all had no changes. Basically, a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is in between the lines of the stuff that's shown on the article. The reality is there isn't a lot in the articles in terms of actual things banned and unbanned. There's quite a bit of unpacking that I'm going to talk about too, and some hints at things they might look at in the future for Commander as well. But there's no bans, I think is super interesting. It actually suggests to me that Wizards think all of the formats are quite healthy right now, and I'd be inclined to agree with them. The last Standard Pro Tour, I didn't talk much about it on the channel because I'm just in a period of lull with Magic, if you will, in terms of 60 card constructed at least. Really need to play some more 60 card constructed, so I'm sort of aiming to do over the next couple months. But we've gone from a period of Standard being absolutely dominated by mono red or blue red bollocks basically, to being a rather varied metagame, and it's really cool to see Wizards get back into their stride and have the formats look quite healthy. Alchemy's had a lot of rebalances, but I don't give a shit about Alchemy, so it'd only be interesting if I cared about Alchemy specifically. And Historic's a similar bag, loads of bans. I guess to differentiate its identity to that of Timeless. Again, I don't really play Historic, I tend to play Timeless when I'm on Arena, and Timeless got a Necropotence restriction. Timeless is the format that's the closest to Legacy on Arena. I do very much enjoy it, and it's something I'm going to play more on the PK Plays channel over the next couple months. Necropotence getting a restriction does kind of make sense. It's now in class with like Demonic Tutor and Channel, and maybe I can't think of another one, but they are restricted. You can only play one because bans are something they don't really want to do in Timeless. And I think this is great. If we can move to a period where like Wizards support things like Pioneer a bit more in paper, we might see a bit of a 60 card renaissance if the formats are in healthier spots than they have been for a while, with where Legacy and Standard was over the last couple of years. But let's talk about what you really came here to talk about. It's Biorhythm being unbanned and Lutri being unbanned, but remaining in a category that's been created for it, which is banned as companion. I'm going to unpack both of those, and I'm going to talk about things that didn't get unbanned, and I'm going to talk about the things that they talked about perhaps unbanning in the future. Firstly, Biorhythm. It is a 8 mana enchantment sorcery. Each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls. This card has been a scary, feels bad boogeyman on the ban list for a very, very long time. I think this has been on the ban list for as long as I literally remember, because essentially in casual games, when someone's not got a creature in play and you cast this 8 mana sorcery, they instantly die. And that's not great for casual games. But with the addition of the bracket system and game changes as part of that conversation, Biorhythm has been unbanned and gone onto the game changer list, which I quite like. The main place that you'd see Biorhythm is in a deck that goes really wide like Elves, although I would argue I think it's actually much stronger in decks like Landfall Matters, the deck that can make, you know, 600 Scoot Swarms, and maybe they can't win with 600 Scoot Swarms for some reason. If they can't, they could put their life totals very high and put everyone else's life totals very low, and then win with with Scoot Swarms. It turns off all that life gain you've done, it gets through prison strategies if they've got no creatures, or at the very least puts everyone's life to 1, 2, or 3 for their 1, 2, or 3 creatures. If they've got a dozen Scoot Swarm style tokens or any form of plant token created by some sort of landfall effect, they get to have a much higher life total than everyone else. I don't think the card is particularly fun, and I think it is a very wombo combo 8 mana you win the game spell out of nowhere, and thus I'm not a fan of it. Like Sway of the Stars and Wildfire when they got unbanned, I did make the comment that I don't really know why we're unbanning such unfun stuff, but now that we have the structure in place that actually brackets 1, 2, and arguably 3 shouldn't have this shit come up. Wombo combos doesn't feel very much in the nature of bracket 3. The problem there is the tension and game changes. Like in bracket 3, if I remember correctly, you can play 3 game changes, which is really funny because like late game 2-card infinite combos is green tick tier, so combos can happen, but what about a late game 1-card combo? I guess it has to combo with a wrath in a way, or combo an opponent getting wrathed by someone else, or someone wrathing and passing the turn to you, and then you play a body, and I don't know. It's not quite a wombo combo, I guess. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating that nature, but I just do think buy with them would feel weird anywhere below a 4. Yeah, again, the pre-game conversation should solve this stuff, but ultimately, I don't think the card's that much of a problem. I think I was a bit too harsh when they unbanned Wildfire and Sway of the Stars, because you just don't fucking see them. Turns out even the worst people you know still think those cards are shit to play with. On the topic of game changes, they also added another card to the game changer list. Farewell, the 6 mana choose 1 or more exile fucking everything card, has been added. I think their logic that game changers are cards that they want to know about ahead of time, because you might want to opt out of playing against, and that's one of them. For example, you can just discuss which of the game changers on the game changer list you're playing in your deck. I think it's fair enough. I don't really like Farewell. It's usually in a panic mode when you're behind. The correct thing to survive is to reset the game, but that's kind of dull. It's kind of like Cyclonic Rift, but Cyclonic Rift at least allows one player to end the fucking game, which sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes I just want a game of Commander to end so we can continue on and play a different one, because variety is the spice of life. This means that Farewell shouldn't show up in brackets 1 or 2, although I'm pretty sure Farewell is in 1 or 2 precons. It's definitely in the Doctor Who precon, right? There's a Doctor Who David Tennant Farewell. I'm not imagining that. I'll put it on screen if it is there, which is funny because now you've got a precon that has a game changer. But we had precons with banned cards before, who cares? But then we come to the Lutri, who's not going on the game changer list and has been unbanned. Originally, the Lutri was banned because the way Companion works. Companion is a mechanic where if you meet a certain stipulation, you have access to that card. And Lutri stipulation is basically just play Commander. There's very small fringe cases where a deck may not be able to play Lutri. For example, if you're playing a Grixis Shadowborn Apostle deck. People who didn't understand why Lutri was banned don't really understand Magic or how it works. It was very, very imbalanced, to the point of literally being arguably the most imbalanced thing that's ever happened to Commander if Lutri were legal. That any deck playing blue and red would be allowed to have an extra card at all times available somewhere. Even if it's just a 3 mana 3/2 without any other text, which is not, it's got flash and extra abilities to copy spells and such, it would just be very stupid to have that colour pairing be the only colour that gets access to that. The problem is it was banned for its companion text, but the rest of its text is absolutely fine. What Lutri does, where it copies an instant or sorcery that you control, is negligible. Negligible is not the right word. It's a cool effect, but it's just not even in the conversation for being broken. It was really a problem because of the original companion text. Now, the original companion text got changed to need you to pay for the companion to enter your hand from the companion zone for 3 mana. Still, Lutri was accessible to all blue-red decks, so remained banned, and eventually they unbanned it now, today, but keep it banned as companion, which means we now have a separate category on the ban list just for things that are banned only as a companion, which I think is a good, exception to make for Lutri. Lutri is an interesting creature. It's a legendary creature as well. I think it should be playable in blue-red decks, in the main deck. Hell, I'm pretty sure I've played against it on multiple occasions where people just told me, can we rule 0 this? It's not a companion. And it's also an otter, so it's got a bit of mimetic value to it as well, where people just found it really fun. I think that exemption is great. What it does open up a conversation around is, firstly, should companions have ever been legal in Commander? I'm going to do another video about that this week or next, talking about wishes and companions, so look out for that. So I won't go into too much detail here, but ultimately the real answer is no. The original companion mechanic was so unbelievably fucked, and it fucked Magic in every format until they had to rewrite the entire mechanic, but the fact that they allowed it to infect Magic Commander is dumb, and also the fact that it goes into a separate zone where the wish board would exist, for example, but we don't allow wishes, This is a wish, by the way. It's a card that grabs a couple months of the game, which means it comes from its sideboard. Commander has no sideboards. Sheldon Mennery and the old RC were very adamant about that, and I agree with them that actually that's kind of a good thing. So allowing companion but not allowing wishes was very strange, and I reckon it really, I'm absolutely certain it really spoke to a corporate oversight or meddling from Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro wanting to sell their new toys to Commander players. But I will unpack that all more in another video. I agree with wishes aren't allowed. Why the fuck are companions? But perhaps the idea of allowing all companions in the deck and just banning out companion or removing companion from it right now, again, I will label this more in the other video, but I think removing a lot of people's decks that utilize the companion now would just be a net negative, so I can see why they haven't made that sweeping change. Allowing a Lutri is a net positive. People get to play with them in the main deck, and that's great. The other thing that this ban does companion thing suggests is that perhaps we can manage other separate ban lists, like Banned as Commander. The Commander ban list has a few cards on it that are simply just too good in the command zone. The ones that really jump out are Golos, Tireless Pilgrim, and Nardu Winged Wisdom, both of which are just too good at being repeatable, easily accessible. One replaces, gives you an extra land and pays for half its command attacks, and it's basically the best 5-color commander you can play in reality because of its mana dumpability as well. Meanwhile, Nardu is a very strong combo engine, but having to draw into it or tutor for it and only having one copy of it is a lot weaker than having a constant copy of your command zone combo piece. Both of these cards, alongside other things like Raphaelos, would be absolutely fine. The 99 strong, I think Nardu would be probably quite strong. Is it CDH playable? Probably not, but it's just fine, the 99. But at the moment, these cards are banned in the normal ban list, and thus can't play as commanders. I think banned as commander to allow those cards to be unlocked would be decent. I think really you only put like Nardu on that list, or you put Golos on that list. Then there's Raphaelos, there's maybe Leovold. There's actually only like a handful of cards, 4 or 5 on that list that like go into that slot. Like even Iona is just much worse when it's easily accessible from the command zone than it would be in the 99. Although I'm not convinced it's good for the format to be available in the 99 either. More on that in a moment. But I do think that change is doable. I think originally the problem was I think the argument was that it was confusing for new players, but I think actually it's such a minor moving of the complication needle that players can get it. Magic is deeply complicated. You know, the culture is not dumb, as they say. But it does do such minimal actual improvements to the format. It's not something I'm going to bang my drum for. It's interesting that with Banned as Companion, it does open up that door to being like, actually, why not? We could do that too. And like I said, if we read between the lines, the other interesting things here is that the other things that weren't unbanned, that's your Dockside Extortionist, that's your Mana Crypt, that's your Jeweled Lotus, the cards that got death threats sent to people who are my friends, people who are parts of the original RC, and people, and cards that on their banning made people just go absolutely fucking apeshit in the community, and it was dumb. Like I said, if you look at Dockside Extortionist's price, people were really hedging on it getting unbanned, and people were buying up copies, and as the demand grew, so did the price tag, and now those people are left holding copies of cards that are still banned in Commander and are shit elsewhere. I'm glad we didn't reward bad behavior in one way. And I'm also just glad because I don't think these cards were a net positive to the format. I think they sped up the format many of the times that I saw them see play. Part of what also irks me if they get unbanned is just the exploding price tag of them. I'm not sure we should be banning things solely on their price tag. I think Dual Lands and Cradle needs to go because of its cost. Although Cradle really should be. Is Cradle a game changer? I don't think we need to ban things on their cost, but I do think unbanning these 3 very powerful things and putting them on the game changers list then does just make some people not be able to afford these fucking new powerful game changers that are now part of bracket 3 and 4 decks. And also just still feel like bracket 3 with a Mana Crypt and a Dockside feels so much better than a lot of other stuff. I'm just not too sure on it. I'm glad they remained banned. I don't need them back. I really don't. And I know a lot of people want them back, and I wonder if a good portion, not everyone, some of you want them back for legitimate purposes. I know the argument is that it allows more expensive commanders to see play, especially Jeweled Lotus, like your 6-mana Nivs and things that I love. True, but it also accelerates the somewhat lower cost commanders too. Let's just be completely real here. I know there's some of you that talk like that, so I'm not saying every one of you is being dishonest. But I think a large portion of the people talking about this are being dishonest. But the reality is they were upset by expensive cards in their collection going the way of downward trend, and now they want them unbanned to upward trend them again. And at any point where like the cost of the card in terms of making a financial gain is informing your wants and needs around the ban list, then I think we're in a shit spot and we shouldn't be doing it. And then they also pointed to some other cards. So firstly, they talked about how Thassa's Oracle and Mystic Study were cards they were watching previously. And they talked about how they were like competitive staples for the competitive side of the format, and they don't show up at lower power levels. I think that's true for Thassa's Oracle. I don't think that's true for Mystic Study. I don't have any stats to back that up, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Mystic Study dominate low powered games many a time. It's the most game warping card in the format, I'd say. That said, as much as Mystic Study, like, if Mystic Study was banned, I'll just shrug my shoulders and say, sure, I get it. But ultimately, I'm not too fussed about it not being banned, because I think it actually adds some texture and some interesting elements to Commander. Mystic Study doesn't just, like, come down and dominate a game in the way that a cheated Emrakul or Griselbrand, that's coming up to something we're about to talk about, would. Mystic Study actually involves or requires the rest of the table to play poorly, and I think that's a really interesting part of Commander. Another video that I'll be releasing in the next couple of weeks, where I'm going to talk about, is it rude to suck at command? So the fact that Mystic Study didn't get banned, I would have been kind of happy if it was, but I'm not unhappy that it wasn't, which I know is a really weird stance to take, but I think the fact that it like encourages some texture around player skill is a good thing. Sundering Titan was discussed to come off the ban list, and I think it should. Like, 8 mana, 7/10 blows up 1 land of each land type, and if you flicker it, it's mass land destruction. Like, the bracket system is already designed to stop this shit happening at lower levels anyway, so just let it live alongside Armageddon and many other mass land destruction effects that aren't banned. Sundering Titan was always a weird exception on the ban list because other mass destruction wasn't banned. It was part of the idea that the original RC had that I never really agreed with, of having the ban list be a example style thing where it gives you examples of what you should and shouldn't do. Sundering Titan is no different, if not sometimes even not as bad as a full-on Armageddon, and thus I think take it off the ban list and let the bracket system deal with it. It shouldn't really be showing up until, is it bracket 4? Yeah, the bracket system literally says don't fucking play this in bracket 3. Hell, you could even game change it and now you have a bracket 4 game change. I think the game changer list should be any bigger. It's getting quite big as it is. But yeah, there's no problem with Sundering Titan. Iona is on the ban list because of how much she locks out, sometimes, an entire player. If someone's playing a monocolored deck at the table and Iona gets cheated into play, or fucking heaven forbid cast in the command zone somehow, then it choosing, say, red, and there's a mono red deck at the table, locks them out and puts them at the mercy of other players at the table to help them. I think that political aspect is interesting because you can make an alliance and beg for the help of someone else and become their lapdog in the game of high courts that is Commander. That bit is interesting. But ultimately, the full-on lockout bullshit, I don't think that's a good thing to have in the format, and I get why Iona isn't around for reanimated decks to have a I win button against a tapped-out blue play, excluding free spells, of course. And then Griselbrand got brought up, which I think is absolutely fucking nuts. Yeah, the 8 mana, 7/7 flying, lifelink, pay 7 life to draw 7 cards. That's right, if you've never noticed it before, it's 8 mana, pay 7, draw 7, 7/7. That is a thing that Wizards of the Coast will never live down. But this guy is a powerhouse, or has been a powerhouse, in pretty much every format he's been legal in. He was never really that good in Standard. I tried to play him in Burial Rites, but it was better just to cast Lingering Souls and Burial Rites and create a hoof, but that's a conversation for another video. But everywhere else, he's been the center of Turbo Graze decks in Modern. He has been a reanimated staple in Legacy, perhaps shown up by Atraxa. The new Atraxa is better. I said this in a video that ended up she was, and someone on Facebook was mocking me that I was clickbaiting. Turns out I was fucking right because I'm a god. But Griselbrand wouldn't be shown up by Atraxa in Commander because there's a big stark difference. The more life you have, the more life you can pay, and the more cards you can draw. And thus, paying 7 life 3 times still only dips you slightly below the halfway point of your full life total and draws you 21 cards. I don't think he'd be a good commander, but I do think he'd be one of the best things in the game that you can reanimate. And on top of all of that, if you reanimate him and someone kills him, if you've drawn 21 cards, then someone else reanimates him or steals him. Like, it's a similar thing to Prime Time, or even arguably Emrakul, where the game just revolves around him at lower power levels. You can game changer him, but I think that would still happen at level 3. And then I do think that some sort of Entomb Exhume must be good in higher brackets. Maybe not fast enough to compete with with all the disruption that is available with 3 players in CDH, but it does seem still very, very, very strong. This card will piss off a lot of people if it got unbanned, and I really don't think it's safe to take off the ban list. So there you have it. There's my hot takes. None of them were particularly hot, but it was a lot of talking about the ban lists. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is there something I missed? Is there something that we need banned or unbanned? I think this will not be the last time we talk about the Commander ban list this year. In the meantime, be good to one another. If you want to support the show, don't forget the link to the Kickstarter for Mark Poole in the comment section below and the description. And also there's a link down there to my Patreon. We're running a sealed cube league via testing tools and TTS at the moment for Magic, and we're running an escalation league for 40k. Come get involved for just £2 a month. Ta-ta for now, dickheads.